The Unofficial Lounge with Ashante, Craybon, and Monty. We're here to give you the insight into some of the biggest plays you remember, involving the people wearing the stripes. We look at the grit it takes to become an official, while exploring the history of officiating with the people who made it. It's more than black and white.
Yeah. All right, we're recording on both sides.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Unofficial Lounge. We are joined today by a gentleman that has been great to our show. He comes on annually for us every single year. We really appreciate it. And I mean, he is the guru of officiating. I mean, college football, one-time lead of the NFL, over spring football, whatever letters it may be in the spring, but we're over it. About to finish up another great season of the UFL. I shouldn't say another season. Finishing up the first season of the UFL, the spring leagues. I forget what letters they are, but I mean, Dean has been incredible to us. He has been incredible to officiating. Please welcome back to the Unofficial Lounge, Dean Blandino.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, spring football is hard to keep track, but now I feel like we're in a good place where it's going to be the UFL and it's going to be the UFL for a while. So we're excited. And where did Ashanti go? Is he gone?
Oh, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother.
I'm off in the poppy fields, Dean. I don't want to be a part of this.
What is?
So
okay, no, it's cool.
I'm
like
off in the poppy field.
All right, that's cool.
He's Dean. You've been on the show many a times, and even before we got on air today, who's the first person to start taking shots?
Not even 3 seconds in, just not, hey, how you doing?
Right.
I did.
How's everything?
You from New York? That's how you say what's up.
It was just right off the bat, and we'll get into that. I mean, he took a shot at my Knicks. There's a reason why I wanted to do this segment tonight at this time, because I have no interest in watching the NBA Finals.
You and me both. Only thing once my Lakers went out, for then it's just don't let Boston win. That's just it.
You ever have one of those series where typically, your team's out, and then you'll be like, okay, if I have to pick, I want this team to win. I don't even have that in this series. The Celtics, that rivalry goes back, so I can't bring myself to root for the Celtics. But the Mavs, I mean, think about the tank job,
Yes.
that cost the Knicks a top 10 pick. Like, blatantly, just tank, and they get a fine. Like, no, take the pick away. That's what should have happened.
Exactly.
But anyway, so I can't even watch.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I've just been rooting against Boston ever since the Lakers are out. That's all it is.
At least the Knicks were in the playoff. The play-in game don't count.
Yeah, see, now he's taking a shot. Now he's taking a shot at
you. We went beyond the play-in game, so I don't know what you're talking about. Yes,
I didn't know.
Yes,
they did play.
The Lakers won the.
They played in a series.
The preseason championship, right?
They did win the in-season. They did win the in-season tournament. I just NBA. Look, let's be real. If the Knicks had their full squad,
correct.
I'm not saying they would have beat Boston, but I'm saying it would have been a pretty good series in the Eastern Conference Finals.
It would have been better than the Pacers, especially once the Pacers lost Halliburton. It was done. I mean,
if the Knicks had their full squad, he still only played 5 of them, right?
No.
Doesn't matter.
No.
Well, all I know is, look, Tibbs is going to get an extension. We got a couple of decisions to make, but there's a guy who I'm calling it now. I'm calling it right now. You will see him in a Knicks uniform.
Is he in a 76er uniform right now?
No, he is absolutely not. No.
Oh, okay.
He's from Greece. He wears the number 34.
Oh.
So I am expecting my man Giannis. We're gonna, Julius Randle picks whatever they want. That's gonna happen, and you will see Giannis playing at the Garden. Mark my words.
Wow.
Yeah, once a year. Once a year.
No. In the home uniform.
I thought Embiid was gonna be the
No, I can't.
the
I
guy.
can't. No, after that Sixers series, I can't. I think he's an unbelievable player.
Right.
But he's one of the dirtiest players I've ever seen. I mean, he is, and for as big as he is and as good as he is, and just flopping and trying to get fouls. So I think he's amazing, but I can't have him on my team.
But that Giannis, that would be probably one of the biggest trades.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bigger.
I think he wants it. Let's go. The Knicks are, they got all the picks. They got the capital to make it happen. So we'll see.
Hey, Dean, I believe you on a lot of things, but this one, I don't think this take is not one. It's not
all right.
happen.
We'll see.
You're very knowledgeable.
I'll send you a Giannis Knicks jersey when it happens. That's my.
Hey, Dean, I'm with you. I like it. I was excited about the Woj bomb this morning with the Lakers. I'm hoping that they can get Hurley coaching.
Yeah.
Because the NBA needs coaches like that again. I don't think he can be as hard as he is in college, but they need somebody to coach. I mean, you can't just have players running, LeBron is great. He does everything good, but it was interesting. It's just too many coaches.
Yeah, it was interesting that JJ Redick had emerged as like the front runner prior to Hurley. The news that really first I heard of it was today.
Right.
Because, former player, and he's saying he's great as an analyst, and apparently he does a great job, and he X's and O's, but it just kind of reminds me of like Steve Nash and the Nets. It's just like that kind of thing where I agree, being a Knicks fan and the coaches, Pat Riley and Van Gundy, it was more of that hard-nosed style. Like, and I think
you're not going to throw Kurt Rambis in that?
Kurt, no, that was
no.
No, we don't want that. D'Antoni, nah.
Derek Fisher,
Derek Fisher, come on, Magic was a coach for 3 seconds.
We're talking about the Knicks, Monty.
He talking about Knicks coaches.
Well, I got you, but all these player coaches don't seem to work.
They just don't.
Jason Kidd.
At least but he, we'll see.
It took him some time. What this is the third team for him after him coming back and being an assistant when he went and took the natural route.
And they're and the Mavs are getting like the good Kyrie. Right. They're getting that Kyrie.
Right.
Right. And obviously Luka's incredible. So, that's so yeah, I just think that style of coach, and he would have to absolutely tone it down a little bit, but I think that'd be I like it. I like it for the Lakers.
So Dean, we talk about your Knicks, and before we get off into football stuff, is there any other sport you just sit back and watch for enjoyment that you just sit back with the boys and enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, we're big hockey fans. I was always a big hockey fan. So we had the Rangers. That was disappointing.
Right.
I was hoping that they'd make it to the final and try to get to a game or two. So yeah, this is always a fun time of year in the spring when those two teams are in the playoffs and doing well. And obviously football is, both of my kids love football, but yeah, hockey and basketball and we like baseball too, but right now it's kind of regular season baseball. It's like, you just so many games.
Right.
So you don't
especially with kids.
Yeah, you don't really get excited until we get closer to the postseason.
Those Lady Liberties, they've been putting it on people too. Shoot, the NBA.
Well, the WNBA is like, it's crazy now. Like, it's crazy that what is happening. Obviously, like you have Caitlin Clark coming in and Angel Reese and all these great players coming in, but it feels like it's blown up to where obviously we want people to be interested in the WNBA and women's sports, but it feels like there's just a lot of people interested for the wrong reasons right now. I don't know.
It seems like Bulls, Knicks, not Bulls, when it was the bad boys, like they just all beating each other up.
Yeah, exactly.
But I didn't watch much WNBA, but it makes sense because the WNBA, in my opinion, if you look at it from afar, it's kind of the NBA of the early 80s where you start to have the big names, the Magic and Bird. Jordan was just coming in, and the league wasn't it still was an old man league in a sense. It was a lot of veterans in the league, to where the NBA and even the NFL is becoming a young person's game because of salaries, right? It's cheaper to go get your rookie than leave that 10-year vet on the bench. Unlike the WNBA, where you have a lot of veteran women still playing, where it's hard for a rookie to get on. You look at their drafts, a lot of their first round picks don't make it. They're out the league in 2-3 years just because it's those old vets that Diana Taurasi is 41 and still killing it?
Yep.
Well, I think the big thing is they ain't dunking, so if you can beat them up on the ground, you're good.
Well, yeah, most of the game is played right up below the rim, and so in a lot of cases it's more. You watch it. I watched. I can't say I'm a WNBA fan, but I've watched enough, and what I always find it funny what they allow NBA players to get away with nowadays. Like I remember playing basketball, rec league, CYO, whatever it was. I was like, that I would never do that. I can't. That's a travel. That's a carry.
That's a
you
carry.
Can't pick up that foot. And even just playing with my boys or playing whatever, I was like, how do they get away with that? It took 6 steps. Whereas WNBA, I was just watching a game the other day, and they called the travel. And I was like, oh, okay, good. They're officiating it to the the letter of the law, but it is what it is.
Yeah, the Euro step with the step back, and it's like, how many steps did you take before?
Exactly.
Don't worry about that.
Yes. So Dean, this is, football now is a year-round thing for you. Between right now, you have the UFL going, you have the college football that you're leading up, especially during this time of the year, trying to get everybody prepared. But let's start off with the UFL before we get into. And one thing I want to talk about, because they've been talking about a lot, is the NFL. We don't talk rules much, but when we have you on, I got to ask you some questions about it. NFL is going to change the kickoff rule to what the previous spring league, the XFL rule was. The UFL kind of adjusted, similar, but it's some adjustments to it. Yeah. Was there ever any thought to keep it what it was so both leagues match up? I know you don't have anything to do.
No, absolutely. What the NFL is doing, it is the XFL kickoff foundation. They've made some tweaks and changes. So it's not the exact replica. It's very similar. And we had a lot of conversations when you had the XFL and USFL, when that merger took place. We met and went through a lot of the rules differences, and the kickoff was a pretty significant difference. And then there had to be some compromises. And that conversation was okay. At that time, we didn't know if the NFL was going to make a change, but it was heading in that direction. And so we absolutely thought about that, and ultimately landed on a different kickoff rule. But and the good thing about spring football and the UFL is we can make changes that you don't have to wait. The NFL, there's a process, and you've got to go through that process, and you have to have 32 teams and they vote, and you got to get 75%. If we think something is going to work, or we want to make a tweak at the end of the season, we can do that without a big lift. And so we can make changes, but the NFL, this kickoff rule is a major, major change. It's going to look a lot different than what we've been used to on Sundays in the fall.
Right. It's been interesting hearing some of the, once you give a special teams coordinator a new rule, right? They are the ones that they have one aspect of the game that's only 5% of the game to focus on, and they are going to chew it up. And it's interesting hearing them. Maybe I don't have my regular kicker kick off because I may need that person to actually be a person that can actually make a tackle now, because I know I'm going to have more returns. I can't just have the kicker out there. I may have to have a safety that can get the ball in the drop zone, kick it, so then I have an extra person on coverage. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play around with it. But it's cool to see that the spring leagues are now in a sense, influencing some of the stuff that we can see.
Yeah, no doubt. And then that's the cool part, that you can see it in actual live football versus just a concept and saying,
Right.
well, here's what we think would happen, where you could actually watch it and get some real life input and feedback. So that's always good.
Nostradamus told us this like last year. He said it on the last show.
Yeah.
It was going to be
changed. It was going to be, yeah. I mean, that's exactly. And then so I'm glad you brought that up, Monty, and I'm glad you mentioned that name because last year that was my one thing that came true, and this year I've already given you my one thing that's going to come true. Giannis on the Knicks. So
you're not going to say the Knicks in 6? We're going.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Trust me.
But one thing interesting with the I guess didn't pay attention to was the first game I watched in the coaches challenge on a false start, right?
Oh yeah.
And that kind of threw me off for a loop because I'm hearing it. I'm like, hold up, they can't do that. And then I hear you make the announcement. I'm like, oh, this is game. Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, that was something that we had in the XFL. We just wanted to. This goes back years in the NFL, and a lot of the coaches, Bill Belichick, others thought, okay, if I have 2 challenges, let me challenge anything, and don't restrict what I can challenge. I'm already restricted in the number of times I can do it, and I understand that timeouts are attached to that, so it's not like I can just keep doing it. And we wanted to try it and say, you know what, it's easy to explain. What can you challenge? Any officiating decision, as long as you have a timeout, you can challenge it. So if you think it was a false start and you think it was important enough, then you challenge it. And so we've had it the last 2 years, last year in the XFL, this year in the UFL, and it's worked. I mean, it's not easy. Believe me, I'm in that chair, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. And what we try to do is, okay, we know on the field, you're looking at it at full speed, right? You're looking at it in real time. And what we don't want to do in replay is apply a different standard than how you're looking at it. If it should be called on the field, then we call it in replay. If we don't want it called on the field, then we don't want to call it in replay. So that's been interesting, but it just gives the coach that opportunity to say, if you think it's important and you think that, it's a mistake, then you can challenge it and we'll make a decision. And if you win, great. If not, you lose the timeout.
The coldest thing I saw was I was watching the game. We talked about it when Frank was on. There was a play where there was an interception, and the offense wanted to call a penalty on themselves because they said, "No, we false started."
Yeah. So that was one of those things, right? That's like exactly right. So they're depending on the outcome of the play, that false start may benefit the offense, right? So that's kind of it's cool where it's just things that you don't normally think of, and it adds another layer, another strategy to the game, and everybody's happy with it. And like I said, it gives us an opportunity to maybe correct something that could have an impact on the outcome of the game.
And
go ahead, Shanti.
And another thing too is, like, you and Mike do a great job with your explanations to the crew, like with everything. Like, even if they throw a foul, you guys agree with, like, it's that clear communication. Like when they show it, like through the TV is helpful. So how did that come about?
Yeah, that's that transparency that the fans, the feedback was really positive with that, right? Because look, a lot of times there's officials get together and you guys know what is being talked about, right? But not everybody else knows. Not everybody ever understands that there's like 3 or 4 things that we have to factor in, and there might be multiple people providing input. So that's why it's taking a little longer than normal. But people are like, why is it taking so long? So if you can listen in, you're like, oh, okay, I didn't realize it was that many things that they had to consider. And it's the same for replay, where you not only get the decision, but you get the why. So you might not always agree with it, but at least you're like, okay, I can see what they're talking about. And that just, I think it gives the fan it gives them a better understanding of how officiating works, but it also, I think it kind of alleviates some of the negativity, conspiracy theories, that go on and all that stuff.
Yes, But with that, it also challenges, in a sense, some of the philosophies that, they start out kind of small for us on the field, and then they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then now, because of that challenge, some of the stuff that you maybe, say like, oh, in the past, since they can't challenge it, it didn't really have that much effect on the game. You let it pass. Now you have to, because I was affected by it. Coach challenged for a false start. And as soon as he threw it, he said, I want to challenge the false start. And we had to, defense didn't react. Nobody moved. It was nothing. But as soon as he threw it, I'm like, Coach, you're going to win this. And it didn't even bring back a touchdown. I think it brought back like a 20-yard play. Yeah. But he felt momentum-wise, it was what it is. So now it's like, hey, if it's there,
that's the challenge of, because when you go into replay, you've got to be careful about, well, why didn't you make it a false start? Well, the philosophy is, because the coach is going to come back and say, I don't care what the philosophy is. The rule says this, right?
Exactly.
And so that's part of it. But also, you can balance that with, okay, I don't want to look at that frame by frame by frame and say, oh, he moved a frame early. Like, it has to be, you have to be able to see it in real time. And that's the challenge. And we always tell, you all on the field, like, don't change how you officiate based on replay. And not having been in that position, I can understand how that might be hard, right? Because you don't want to get, that call overturned, or you don't want to, why you made that decision and your thought process was good, but it still got overturned because by rule it's a false start. So there's a balance there. It's not always easy, but officiating isn't easy, which is surprising that Ashanti's been able to stay in it for that long.
Yes, very much so.
Hold on. Was that a shot?
We're still trying to figure it out.
I'm gonna let you finish.
Hold up. Was that a shot?
If I can't see you, I'm not listening to you. That's all I'm saying.
That was a shot. That's so disrespectful, Dean. I respect you as a, I miss Joey Galloway.
Watch yourself.
I miss you and Joey Galloway.
Joey was my guy. He'd give me a hard time. So yeah.
So
now, Dean, one thing about all of this is that you see it, on Sundays during the season, during the regular season, you're on the analyst side, the TV side of it. You're kind of doing both in the UFL, to where you have a lot to do with the production, but yet you are in charge of the replay and so on. How much are you now trying to get referees? Because this is my last year being a referee in that microphone. How helpful is it when they give those little nuggets, as we call it, that little announcement, that unpostured announcement of the ruling on the field is this, when their officials come together, or, there was no foul because of this? How important is that for you on the analyst side to really, educate the crowd more of what's going on?
Sure. It's extremely important, because in the UFL, I'm on the O2O, I'm on the wireless communication. So I know what you're talking about. When I'm an analyst, I don't know what you guys are talking about. So anytime you get on the mic and give us that information, the ruling on the field was that the runner's forward progress was stopped. So now I know, okay, the ball came loose, but I know what the things we need to consider for that to be reviewable, those types of things. And so that really helps. And I think the good referees, again, it's a balance, right? There's some referees that can get on the mic too much, and okay, we don't need every time the quarterback is out of the pocket, we don't need you to tell us the quarterback's out of the pocket and it's not intentional grounding. But look, if it's close and there was something, but the good referees can get on the mic and give us, like you said, those nuggets, and then everybody understands. Okay, I got it. I see what they're ruling, and it just eliminates any kind of confusion. Because once what I've learned on the TV side is, once the announcers, right, once they're confused or they're not sure what's going on, then they could take it down a completely different path. And now the fans, the viewers are listening going, man, these officials don't know what they're doing. When you absolutely know what you're doing. And most of the time you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but we don't know because we're not privy to those conversations.
Right. And how quickly is a producer during the fall season getting to you, trying to get some information, maybe that even if you're not going on camera yourself, that they're just trying to get information to you to feed to the announcers, women or men calling the game.
We do that. So we're in the studio and I've got a kind of a talk back to the producer, and in some instances directly to the play-by-play and the color analyst. But so I'm talking to the producer if there's something that I feel like would be helpful and so 95% of what we do is that communication. Hey, this is fouls by both teams. They're going to offset, or this is, they're going to decline this foul and the other foul is going to be enforced. All of those things we're doing throughout the game. And then it's from my mouth to the producer. The producer relays it to the talent, and then the talent relays it. And it's kind of like they know what they're talking about. The producer will ask questions too. We'll get in my ear and say, hey, what do you think on this play? What do you got? And then I can explain it to them. A lot of times during a break, I'll get on with the talent and talk through it with them. And then they'll say, hey, Dean, we want to come to you. Get ready. We're going to bring you on. And then, that probably happens once or twice a game.
And so I always like to ask you about rule changes, but you watch a little bit of baseball, and I think one of the greatest rule changes in baseball has been the pitch clock, right? To kind of speed it up. We see in the spring leagues, the incomplete passes, once the ball's back ready for play, getting the clock back rolling, speeding the game up. And we've seen that college football and, NFL can kind of drag along sometimes. Do you ever think we'll be able to implement something that's going to shorten the game, the game times, that coaches aren't going to give us too much pushback on loss of plays?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. I think the NFL, from a number of plays, game time, I think they're in a good place. It's just a different game. It's a different, there's less tempo. There's more teams that huddle. Those teams in college football that go fast, they want 80, 90 snaps on offense, right? And so the more snaps you get, the more opportunities for stopped clocks, incomplete passes, those types of things, and the games tend to be longer. So college football, right, going into last year, made some changes, the first downs, consecutive timeouts, things like that, which helped. I mean, it knocked 4 or 5 plays off per game. Game time didn't go up, which is a good thing. But I still think there's work to be done. I don't think games need to be done in 3 hours, but
right.
You do have some of these college games that go, when you're talking about 3.5, 3:45, that's a lot of snaps. And now you're going to play a CFP with 12 teams. If you're just talking about FBS, right? FCS already plays a playoff with multiple games you got to play. So these are young kids that are playing a lot of snaps and being exposed to injuries. And so, you have to continue to look at it.
What do you think is the sweet spot we're looking for? What is that time frame?
College, I think on average, if you keep it at 3:15 or under, it was, I think, it got up to like 3:20 at one point. I think it was 3:17 last year. 3:15 or under. Problem with college football, it's not a problem. It's just the reality,
right? So different.
Of college football is there's just such a wide variance of how teams play. You go from, whether it's air raid to, the option to all these different things. So you could have a game with, an Air Force game that may be 2 hours and 58 minutes, but you get some of these maybe Big 12 games or some of these where they throwing a lot more passes and going faster that go 3.5 hours. So it's hard. And then you have, when you look at the rules committee and I'm in those meetings, you're making rules and everybody thinks you're making rules for Ohio State and Georgia and Michigan and Alabama, but we're also talking about the D2 and D3, right?
Yes.
So it's hard when you think of that because it's not like the NFL where everybody's more or less on an even playing field. certainly the resources are the same. Everybody's getting the same money. So it's hard when you think of it that from that perspective with designing rules for the game.
You think we'll get to full-time referees anytime soon?
I don't full-time
In college,
it's interesting
everywhere,
because somebody asked me that today. They texted me about with what's happening in college football with NIL and the lawsuits and everything, because where it's headed is these athletes, they're going to be employees. It's going to be like an NFL. There's going to be revenue sharing, all of that. Where do the officials fit into that? Right now, officials are independent contractors. In college and the NFL, they're independent contractors, but they are represented by a union. So yeah, it's I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how that is going to change over the next 5 to 10 years, but certainly the landscape of college football is changing. And look, when you get to a certain level in college football, even the money is so much. And I've said this before, like when I first started in like the mid 90s, people had a full-time job and they officiated on the side. Now more people, when you get to that top Division I, Power 4, and certainly the NFL, they officiate and they might have a job on the side. They might not. They might just do that full time. So, I don't know if the NFL or
the money wasn't that good, Dean. The money wasn't that good. I had to show my face for that one. The money wasn't that good for me to lose.
What are you working? You're working. What are you working? D4 now? What are you working?
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna call the Pac 2. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. But I see what you're saying though. Like you said, but it seemed like in college they don't want to pay the officials but a certain amount, because they want to keep it at, that certain level.
Sure.
Not like that next level. So
no doubt. And I don't think that there's collusion necessarily. I don't think conferences get together and
it is
not intentional, but
not intentionally.
Intentional.
Right.
But there is that they know what the SEC is paying their officials, right? They know what this group is paying their officials. And so which again, that's smart from a business perspective as well. Why are you going to, reset the market if you don't have to? But it is, officiating has always been, I've been with the NFL, I was with the NFL for a long time. And for such an integral part of the game, you think about what officials are paid compared to players. It's minuscule. It's not
right. I think at one point in time they did the math, and the NFL wasn't spending like 1% of their budget on the. I'm not saying that was some years ago. I'm sure it's changed now over the years, but they weren't even spending 1% in their whole officiating department compared to their overall, gross resources that they have. My argument has been for years is as the scrutiny goes up and responsibility goes up in officiating,
no doubt.
Let's have the pay,
and you have to
follow with it,
and absolutely. But you also have to think about as gambling continues to become a bigger part of all of this, and you think about the integrity of the game, and you think about whether it's everybody wants a piece of that. We're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars. Everybody wants a piece of that pie, right? Then you have to, as an organization, whether it's the NFL, the Big Ten, whoever it is, you have to ensure that your games are called fairly and your outcomes are decided fairly. So you have to have officials, you have to pay them to a certain extent to where they can't be compromised, where they can't be, somebody says, oh, I'm going to offer you this. And an official says, wait, you're offering me something like, I'll never make that in 5 years. And you're just telling me I got to make one call. Okay. So not saying that officials would do that, but you don't even want to have that possibility,
Exactly. And it's amazing that how much it's when you talk about the gambling aspect of sports now, it went from being, the cardinal sin to talk about You know, when Musburger back in the day would say the over under, you know, he was crucified. Now it's I mean,
No,
it's
they got
leading in
shows. They
to
got
everything.
entire hour shows.
You can't watch a game without you see the lines, you see they're talking about it, and it was only a matter of time because, like I said, there's just too much money not to bring it in.
It's on your phone.
If you sit back and watch, right? But if you sit back and watch the UFL games, you have the announcers on the game, you know, comparing notes because they have. You know, they're doing it, not saying they're betting on the games, but they're making their picks and they're talking about it during the game. Hey, hey, I need one more score for my over the hit. And it's part of the game itself. And when you look at all the podcasts and radio stations, the media of sports is almost funded by, you know, DraftKings and all these other companies.
No doubt.
And so it's interesting to see how quickly that Pandora's box has been opened.
And look, the reality is the popularity, the NFL is popular for a lot of reasons.
Correct.
And one of those is because it is almost the perfect betting sport, right? It's you know, I
don't know anything about that, Dean. I
know you all don't, but I'm just saying.
I don't know
nothing.
I know nothing about that.
But
the over-under on this topic right now needs to stop.
Oh, man. Hey, they don't see your face when you do something much. They don't even know who you are.
Hey,
right?
Man, that's cool.
When you help on a call.
but now, Shante, that's a good segue, though. This coming year, Dean, a lot more, or if not all of the Power Four conferences now are going to have.
Don't disrespect the P2.
Hey, that's what it is.
P2, baby.
Hey,
don't disrespect P2.
I'm not trying to clown it. It's just what it is.
Is that like a protein bar or something?
Right. Right.
You take your P2? Yeah, I'm going to take it. This worked out.
Right.
I'm going to get it.
It's the old PlayStation from like 1992. He's trying to go back to.
Still work. Just got to blow on the cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
Still
okay. But majority of I wouldn't say majority, but just about all of your big time college football conferences now are going to have collaborative replay to where they're going to be functioning more like you do with the UFL and the spring leagues of having more direct contact.
It's more than just the power conferences. It's 10 of the 11 FBS conferences will be using some form of collaborative replay this year.
Wow.
Which is, which even 3 years ago, that was, there were 3 or 4. So it's really come a long way. And that's where we're headed. We're headed from collaborative replay to centralized replay. And there's a difference, right? Collaborative is you've got the replay official at the stadium. You've got a collaborative replay group somewhere in a remote location. They're listening and they can provide input as needed. Centralized is going to be, you still have your replay official, but once the game is stopped, that decision is going to happen in that command center. And I think that's kind of where we're headed. And look, there are benefits to that. I was with the NFL when we made that change in 2014 and making decisions from the command center, because you can be more consistent when you have the same people, a smaller group making those decisions. You still can make mistakes, but at least you're applying a consistent standard versus having 10 individual people at individual stadiums looking at the same play and maybe looking at it a little bit differently.
Well, you think that would help too with the speed of replay? That it's
I
getting
do.
Centralized to where the speed of it will be a lot faster.
I do. I think eventually, there'll be some growing pains, but I do think once that happens, that we can be more efficient, and I think that's like the next hurdle. I think replay, the replay people do a really good job, and they they don't make a ton of mistakes, but I think we just need to work on efficiency and making sure that we're going through our process and, reducing the number of 2.5, 3 minute stoppages, because that's when it interrupts the flow of the game. And we want to be able to fix things, but not at the expense of the flow and the momentum and all those things that have an impact on games.
So what's the difference in now that means there's a different process to get into replay, because now if you're starting for those that might be coming up, if the goal is to
but we're trying to figure out this question. Come on, get there,
if the goal is to get to a collaborative,
we still got a replay question. You going about the transition?
Hey, that's all about replay, baby.
This is a replay. Actually, Shanti, maybe you go off camera again because your face is kind of distracting right now.
So now, what's the process of before it was, hey, I'm trying to get onto a crew to get to work replay in a stadium.
Yeah.
So now what's the process? How do you get to the collaborative replay in Command Center?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question in terms of, look, and this doesn't eliminate, you're always going to have people in the booth at the stadium, right? You can't get away from that. But I do think what we're going to see is, especially if we're going to make those decisions in that command center, that's where you're going to want your best people. Ideally everybody's the same and everybody has the same skill sets. But you absolutely, if you want to have 2 or 3 people that are kind of responsible for those decisions, that are on the same page, you want to make sure that you have good people monitoring the games from the command center. But I think that in-stadium piece is still going to be important because you've got to stop the game in certain situations. There's things, think about, O to O and how much involvement there is. That's still going to go through the replay official at the stadium as well. So I think it's still going to be, work in progress, but I think that command center is where ultimately those decisions are going to live. And I think that, but it's also, what do you want? Where does your skill set? Do you want to be at the stadium? Do you want to be on a crew, or do you want to be in that command center? I think those are going to be individual decisions for people as well.
Dean, I have to give you credit for this too, because, we talk about certain things happening quickly. We talk about it, but I remember talking to you, in one of our original episodes with talking with you, starting to see a change in replay, people not coming off the field, replay, getting a little younger, getting a little bit more diverse. And we're seeing that now because it's so many more people getting hired into replay that we're starting to see a quicker transition of people that, didn't spend 20 years at the Division I level or 20 years in the NFL, and they're getting into replay. We're getting people from other sports, right? Basketball officials coming into, replay. We're seeing people, stopping at the JC level or community college level, getting into replay. And, I know you had a tremendous push for that. Are you continuing on with your summer classes and stuff to kind of help that push going with it?
Yeah, we're doing, we do our Zooms every 2 weeks, and that's just a group of, we do it with all the conferences or groups of conferences and try to group them together, but also just people that are interested in learning. And we're getting a lot of, and that's kind of the thing. There was a roadmap in officiating, right? And years and years and years ago, where you got involved in youth football or high school, and you might have been on the chain gang, and then then you spent a bunch of time there, and then you worked high school for a bunch of years, and then you finally got a crack at college football and maybe started in D3, and by the time you got to major college football or the NFL, you were 30 years in, like that. And that's not the case anymore, because then think about that. Now you get into the NFL 30 years in, you work say 15 years. Now I'm going to go to replay. Well, do the math. I mean, your group of people are going to be, a more experienced group, but you're not getting younger people in. You're not getting, those people that might not have as much experience, but might have the skill set, and they might be really good replay officials. So we just said, hey, you don't have to go that traditional path. And let's define what the skill set is, and then let's go out and find people that have it. And so we're doing that. We're just trying to teach people the concepts. And then once they learn the concepts, then they can get to camps and clinics and get on the equipment and learn that process. And then hopefully latch on and get and start a career in replay. So that's kind of been what we've done the last, probably.
And I think you've been doing a fantastic job there, Dean.
Oh,
wow.
Here we go.
See, this is and you have a case in point, right?
Wow.
Matthew Montgomery, who
like 40 minutes in before he started.
I just want to make sure that Dean knows that everyone coming up through this system is really appreciative that there is a system to do. Before it was a black box and who knew what happened. But now going to a couple camps and then getting hired.
You the poster boy.
It's been a fantastic transition from coming off the field into the replay booth.
There you go. That's a real life testimonial. There you go. That's it.
But with that though, I think also with the change of replay, in a sense, being a person that's on the field and dealing with it, it's kind of helpful because when you had the person that was on the field, they took a while to start transitioning to where they looked at the game from the replay side of it and not looked at it as they were officiating the game on the field still, which replay is totally different mechanics and totally different process than what we do on the field. So I think it's, in a sense, I was afraid. I was one of those guys kind of, somebody need a little experience. They got to be here to know it. But when somebody really understands the cadence and the structure that you want, they in a sense pick up the replay. For me, this is just my personal feeling of it, dealing with it now. They kind of pick up that cadence and that structure a little bit quicker than somebody that, when I was on the field, mindset.
Well, yeah, you don't have to unlearn anything, right? You don't have to. You've done it for so long on the field, and what's worked for you, and it is different. Like there's some things you can take with you to the replay booth that are going to help, but there's some things you really just got to forget. So somebody that doesn't have that extra baggage can start fresh, and you can teach them the process. And if they have the skill set, they'll pick it up and they'll be successful. So, but it doesn't mean that on-field officials can't transition to replay, because we've had a lot of really good on-field officials that became really good replay officials. So,
what's the email? What's the email, Dean? I need
the email. It's
we'll talk offline.
It's go New York, go New York, go
at
gmail.com.
Now, Dean, because you are the guru. Because you are the guru of replay, let me ask you a question without putting anything bad down. How do we fix NBA replay? It takes so long.
Well, I don't look, I don't know all the ins and outs of how their process works.
But just as a fan with the knowledge of replay.
It's hard because there's just, again, I think football is the perfect sport for replay. I just think because the game already has these built-in stoppages, right? There's these, not that basketball doesn't, but when you watch, and I watch a lot of basketball, when you watch the last 2 minutes and we're looking at, every little thing, to me, and I get it. I understand the hard part about this, because to me, if I have the ball and you knock it out of my hands and it goes out of bounds, that's out of bounds on you, right? And that's always been out of bounds on you, and it's my ball, always, forever. And now, because of replay, and I get it, now we're looking, oh, wait a minute, it just tipped your finger before, and now, right, that was never the intent. That's not, so we're getting technical in some of these instances where it was just not meant to be that technical. You read about, I read an article about VAR in soccer in the Premier League, and one of the clubs, I'm not sure which club it was, but they're proposing to get rid of it because of the stoppages, the delays. Football, right? Soccer, football was not meant to be officiated that way, that technically. So those are challenges. And basketball is a hard sport, man. It's a hard sport to officiate. There's so much going on. And but it's frustrating as a fan. It is. It's frustrating when you watch a football review go too long, and it's frustrating as an NBA fan or a basketball fan when you've got like 6 reviews in the last 2 minutes. That's hard.
I brought it up when we talked with Frank, who also helps you out in the off season in the replay booth, that some things about sports wasn't supposed to be exact. It's
The
fans.
umpire in
It's
baseball.
right. It's something. Some things are supposed to have that human element to it, to where we don't always need it to be perfect. We just need to be right at that moment.
But with officials, it's right. The expectation has grown to perfection, and
Right.
replay hasn't helped, because now they're saying, well, we'll live with you missing it on the field, but with replay, you should never get anything wrong. Well, there's still judgment. I mean, there's still
Right.
judgment involved, and they're absolutely right. How do you stem that tide of, where we always talk about it? Replay, it's not a get everything right system. It's not. It wasn't designed to be that. And there are, in a football game, there are 4 or 5 plays every game that will decide that game, and we got to be perfect on those 4 or 5. We got to be really good all game.
All game, right?
But those 4 or 5 plays that are the plays that are going to decide the game, we got to be perfect. And replay helps you in that those 4 or 5 plays. But it's hard, because it's just that expectation, right? You drop a pass, okay, we move on. It's second down now. We're going to go to third down. But oh my God, that holding call, that wasn't the right call, and now we're still talking about it. Happened in the first quarter. We're still talking about it in the fourth quarter, and that's the challenging part with officiating.
Yeah, when they don't see the stats, officiating, most of the time you're like the 98th percentile of getting stuff right, and it's that 1 or 2% that you get wrong, that you just don't want it to be that one call that just whoa.
Think about just, even if let's say there's 5 decisions in a game on average that are wrong. 5 decisions, and that's probably a high number. Right. So if you think about NFL 155 plays a game, college 175 plays a game, 7 or 8 officials, right? Each official's making decisions before the snap, multiple decisions during the play, and decisions after the play. That's thousands and thousands of decisions every game. And I'm saying 5 is a high number, and we're talking about 5 plays or 5 decisions. That's
the ones you remember, though.
It's crazy.
That's the problem. It's the ones you remember.
Avoid the train wrecks. That's all it's about. Avoid the train wrecks.
Yeah.
So Dean, we've been talking all this football, but my wine club, Dean.
Yeah.
How have you liked?
Well, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh my!
Am I supposed to get it every month?
No. Once a quarter. Oh,
once a quarter. Okay.
Oh my
goodness. Good. Yeah, I was like, I don't know if it's monthly, or because if it's monthly, I got some stuff coming to me, man. Funny story about the wine club, which has been great. I love getting that box. It's amazing. You get the wines and you get like the description. And like, now I'm an expert, and like I'll have friends over and I'll be like, oh, so this is da-da-da-da-da. Like, how do you know so much? I was like, I'm just Renaissance man. It's all good. But so the last one that I got the FedEx
sparkling
thing on the door that I wasn't home, right? They need a signature because it's alcohol, whatever. So I need a signature. So I was like, okay, they're going to come back the next day. And I'm upstairs and I kind of hear like a very faint knock at the door. And so I'm like, that's my wine. I go downstairs, and the FedEx, the dude, he literally like
down
knocked,
the street.
He knocked, and it was like I was down there in 8 seconds. He was leaving already, and I was like, is this guy trying to steal my wine? Is he say that I didn't get it, and it goes back to like the center and they get to keep it? And I was like, hey, yo, what's up? And he's like, oh, I didn't. I was like, there's a doorbell, right? Like, why aren't you ringing the doorbell? He's like, oh, I didn't, he said that, oh, sometimes there's dogs. And when they open the door, the dog comes out. So I wanted to get behind the gate, like the gate's a little further from the front door. And I was like, you were lying. Like, he
was in the van already.
Trying to steal my wine.
So he had the remote start.
Yeah.
Yeah, FedEx has a soft knock. I noticed that when they come to the door.
Yeah, I would just ring the bell. Just ring the doorbell.
So,
how have you liked
Especially
the
when you
wine,
need
though,
a
Dean?
sixth.
How have you liked the wine, Dean?
I've loved it. It's been great. I just like the variety, the different, the different types. It's been.
hey man,
I'm
this
not an
Monty,
expert.
the hug fest got to stop, Dean.
It is.
Like,
I don't know.
he getting it from Trader Joe's, right?
Yeah, and probably, I wouldn't know the difference. I wouldn't know.
He just relabeling $2 Chuck.
Yeah,
Put
my
the
friends
fancy
are like,
description.
I'm talking about all this wine, talking about how I know it. My friends are texting each other going, I saw that at Vaughn's, man. I saw that at the supermarket.
No, there's no way. These are some of the finest Central California wines that you can get.
So, Monty, how can we get that wine list?
The wine. Oh, see, now that it's what it is. It's a surprise. See, you don't get to
you don't
choose what you get.
You don't get to choose. So how do I sign up for that, Monty?
It's like a chef, the tasting menu, right? They
Okay. So where can I choose, Monty, get my
quarterly
wine?
You can always go to pchstreet.com/join. Once you get there, it'll sign you right up. 119 once a quarter, 3 of the finest wines you're going to get every quarter. And we're going to be I'm having a pickup party Juneteenth. So I know, Dean, you'll probably be working playoffs, so you won't be able to get it.
We have, I think the championship game, is that the 16th? When's the
16th is that Sunday.
16th is the championship game.
Yeah, championship game.
And are they playing in Birmingham?
Juneteenth is the 19th, right? Wednesday.
Yeah, but we're doing it that weekend before.
Oh, okay.
Ashante and Chuck are coming up. We're gonna have a good time.
I am gonna come. I'm gonna get. I want to come up and do a little wine tasting, and so we're gonna do that this summer. We'll figure it out.
You said that last summer.
I know. No, I'm absolutely 100%. This is gonna happen. This is gonna happen.
Yeah, I've got anybody come on up. I know how to take care of people.
Wow.
But Dean, we really appreciate you going on the show, coming on with us every single year. We ask this question for you every single year because people want to know but I'm going to stretch it out. It doesn't have to be just football. But if there's one rule that Dean Blandino can change, what would it be?
One rule. I'll stick to football. I've actually got quite a few I think we got to bring NCAA and NFL rules as close together as possible. Like if we can do that, now that we have a 2-minute timeout in college with the 2-minute warning, I think all those rules should be the same. And that's been my background, but I've always felt the NFL timing rules I really like where their timing rules are. So anything that we could do to get, and I know it's never going to be absolutely the same, but I think it would just help across the board. It would help officials, it would help players, it would help coaches. So anything we can do to get the college rules and the NFL rules more in line, I think that's a positive.
Yeah, the college needs to move to the NFL of the blocking downfield, 1 yard, all 4 passes. Done.
Yeah.
So you brought up something too. Now with the 2-minute warning coming in, how is that? I guess with the process with replay, which you guys just understanding I guess you're gonna be hearing on the O2O with the timing rules, just making sure everybody's up to date.
Yeah, what you hear now, like if an NFL game or UFL game at the 2-minute warning, the crew gets together and they just go through all the timing changes, right? And this is it's going to be a positive. It's going to be good because before, right, you could be in the middle of a play and it goes, under 2 minutes. So now it's just a stop, everybody resets, the timing rules kick in after the 2-minute timeout and, replay the same thing. So I think it's going to be easier for everybody. I think it's going to be a good change.
Okay.
It's a good pause too, because sometimes that last TV timeout would come at 8 minutes. Right. The last time us officials were really able to get together where you can, kind of like rule change that it will be 8 minutes left in the second or fourth quarter and you're having your last TV timeout just because of how that game flows. So it's going to allow some consistency, which I think is going to be the best thing about it. Everybody knows it's 2 minutes. Rules change, timing change. Start looking for some different things, and let's go. So, Dean, as always, thank you. We really appreciate it. I mean, when it comes to officiating, when it comes to replay, you are the guy we like to talk to. It was great to see your Knicks make a run. That was actually a fun basketball. That was a fun basketball team to actually watch in the playoffs.
How could you not like that team? Come on.
Because I like mid-range basketball.
It's like Brunson. How do you not like Jalen Brunson? Second round pick, undersized. Right. Everybody thought the Knicks overpaid for him. Now he's like all NBA, second team, getting MVP votes.
He should be on the Olympics, though. He should be on the Olympics.
Yeah, 100%.
He should be on the Olympics. That's the only thing I say about him. Other than that, the Knicks trash.
Appreciate that.
It was good to see Sprewell and the guys back at the.
And how cool is that? Like, I don't know any other organization had that many former players like being a part of the current. In the crowd, in the stands. Marbury and all those guys, Sprewell, Starks, Larry Johnson, like that was just pretty cool.
And game 7
games, but it was one of the games I was watching, and it was every time the ball went out on the baseline, it was a guy standing up, grabbing,
Starks. That's Starks.
I was like, who is this dude?
We were watching. Oh my God! I was telling my son we're watching the games. And I'm like, Starks something's gonna happen. He's gonna trip somebody. It's gonna be accidental. But he keeps coming on the floor at that end. Oh, it's so good. I love it so much.
All right, I got one last one for you, Dean.
Go ahead.
You're East Coast fella. Who you got? Drake or Kendrick?
Oh, really? Wow. I'm
We got to have peace.
I'm not gonna let him answer this wrong. Drake makes good music, but he got murdered.
Yes, it's Kendrick.
He got murdered.
Kendrick, yes, the beat, 100%. I'm like, I don't. Yeah, it's just.
We'll stop there. I think you're on the wrong.
Yeah, let's stop it, Dean. I don't even want to put you down that path. Right.
Now I'm like Tupac and Biggie. Now you got me down.
Yes,
I'm just going. Yeah. We'll just leave it at that.
It was different. That's all I could. Somebody asked me that. I said it's different because I'm used to rap beef being coming across a little different. I don't understand the innuendos or who's offending who. I like it straightforward.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Right.
You knew exactly right.
But all right. But yeah, like I said, I'm rooting for the Knicks in 6 next year, Dean. I'm saying I'm clapping for you. The Knicks in 6.
Okay.
The Knicks and Lakers, the NBA dream.
That's fine.
All right, Dean. We really appreciate your time. Looking forward to working with you this weekend, and thanks again as always. We really appreciate it.
When's the next test quiz coming out?
Thanks for tuning in to the Unofficial Lounge podcast. Don't miss your chance to join PCH Street's MVP Wine Club. Get 3 amazing bottles sent to you every quarter and discover wines that make us throw a flag and stop the game. Visit pchstreet.com/join to become an MVP Wine Club member today. Enjoy the best of the Central Coast of California.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Remember to please like and subscribe, as the Unofficial Lounge is available on all your podcast streaming outlets, including Apple, Google, Spotify, and Anchor. We look forward to you joining us next time in the Unofficial Lounge.